So in the 80s and 90s, I worked as a recording engineer, a live sound engineer, a music producer. I did some arrangement. I taught audio engineering. And I learned a lot in those days, and then was away from music for a while and then came back. And so I thought I would talk about the three most important things for me, the three lessons that I learned from those days, and how to apply them to today's world of recording, which is so much different than it was back then. I'm Keith Livingston for No Label, No Producer, NoLimits.com. Let's dive right in. Number 3, my philosophy is don't learn it until you need to learn it, with exceptions, which we'll talk about in a little bit. When I came back from the world of 2-inch recording tape and 24-track machines into this world of DAWs, it was a completely different ballgame. And there's so much to learn, especially if you're starting out. You have to learn about audio, you have to learn about software, you have to learn about interfaces, you have to learn about latency, and it's a lot to take on. So my suggestion is that learn what you need to know when you need to know it. And here's the reason for that. There's so much to learn, but some of it you never use, or you might never use, and the only thing that you really can't get back is your time. You spend your time and it's gone. So I have before taken a dive into a piece of software, for instance, and spent hours learning about it and then never used it. So in order to avoid that, one of my methods of working is to not learn something until I need to use it. So if you pop open an EQ, for instance, you're working on a track and you want to change the tone, you don't understand what all the controls do, well, that's okay. Is it getting you the result that you want? If it is, then you're fine. Just move on. And yes, I'm a lifelong learner. I spend a lot of my time invested in learning new things. However, what if you learn things that you're never going to use? It's still good for you, but really, in order to be effective in the work and to do as much as you can these days, and you need to create content these days that's actually going to work for you, you have to focus on getting things done and not so much on learning new things. Now, number 2 on the list is going to seem like a contradiction, and in some ways it is, but it's really not, and I'll explain how. Number 2 is devote time to learning fundamentals. And there's the difference right there, right? Things like music theory, like understanding frequency and pitch, like just as an example. If you know where is on the frequency spectrum and you hear it in a mix and you want to get rid of it, you can go right to an equalizer and easily figure out where it is. Learn about musical arrangement, learn about songwriting, learn in general how to operate a DAW, a piece of recording software. These things will pay off in multiple ways. If you know a little bit about how to play several different instruments, that's good. Now, none of these are deal breakers. If you don't know how to play an instrument, I would encourage you to learn more, but again, it's not a deal breaker. I played bass in a couple of bands, just one gig in both bands, right? Just to sit in, just to substitute in both cases. I play guitar. I know how to dial a guitar sound in. I've taught a music history course, so if I work on a piece of music that takes something from jazz or vaudeville songs from the 1900s or something, I have some basis of understanding what's going on. Your broad experience is very good here. Anything that you have in life that you can bring to the table, either in working with other people or drawing from your own experiences to create music, is valuable. This is different than seeing a plug-in that does the latest and greatest thing and going and spending an hour or an hour and a half watching YouTube videos. You go down a rabbit hole and you can waste your time. I see so many musicians who want to put out music and it takes them months and months and years to do it, and they never do it. Did you get a track done today? Did you get a song mixed today? Did you finish that lyric today? Did you pull out your guitar and work out the guitar arrangement today? Okay, those are things that move you forward. The number one thing I learned from my days, especially working live sound, but also working in a recording studio, very small recording studio, 8-track, very low budget, and sometimes people would come in and say, I have 10 hours to do an album. And man, you had to do it. The most important thing, number 1, work fast. You have to dig deep and figure out what your core values are as a musician, and therefore what is important to you. Just to give you an example of how I work, I will throw a drum pattern on a song and just kind of stretch it out the same pattern over and over again, and then start working on the flow of the song and the arrangement. At some point, the drums start bugging me, and I'm like, no, they should be doing this here. And then I go in and I work on that. And I keep working on various elements, maybe the drums, maybe the vocals. I'll sing the song. The next day I'll come back and listen, and I'll think, oh, that's good enough, but I'll know in my heart it's not, right? You got to know your heart. So you keep working on all these elements, and you keep improving them one by one. At a certain point, it just clicks, and it comes together, hopefully, anyway. And that point is when, in many ways, you're finished with the song. Anything you do to serve reaching that point is time well spent. Most of the things that you do after that point is not time well spent. The stuff that has to be perfect is the stuff that matches with your core as a musician. So what is it in your heart that means you nail a song? Is it the emotion of the vocal performance? There are cases when I've left vocals that are less than perfect pitch-wise in a song because I felt the feel was superior to anything else that I've done. So I value the performance over the pitch. You have to figure out what is important to you, and then those are the things that you spend the most time on, getting it just as perfect as you can get it. The rest of the stuff, do fast. If you're working with a compressor, throw a preset on there. If it sounds good to you, move on. People that resonate with you will resonate with what you find valuable in your music. Everything else, you should do as fast as you can and still do it good. Okay. Those are the 3 top things that I learned from my days in the studio. That is, don't learn it until you need it, except for, number 2, those foundational things which will help you overall. And 3, work fast, which means deciding your core values and spending time there, and the rest of things that you do as quickly as you can, competently. Okay, this has been Keith Livingston from No Label, No Producer, No Limits.com. If you liked this video or found it useful in any way, hit like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments if you agree, disagree, or have something to add. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.